Hi everyone, hope you're having a lovely Yom Tov. So there is no parsha this week, but instead we read the portion of the Jewish people crossing out of Egypt and crossing the sea for obvious reasons. And we read the Shira, the song that they sing at the sea. And there's a very well-known Gemara, it actually comes in a couple of places in the Gemara, in Gemara Sanhedrin and Sota as well, where there's this interesting comparison made. It says that setting up two people, creating a match, is as difficult as the splitting of the sea. So the obvious question is why? Why that comparison? Why that particular analogy? And it's obvious, I think, that it's not just a question of setting two people up. You can always suggest any two people, and people do that quite a lot. You often get suggestions of a girl that happens to be nearly 6 foot and a boy who's 6.5 foot, for the obvious reason, just that they're really tall. But obviously these marriages or these suggestions don't always go down very well because you need much more to make a match work. It's obviously not just setting two people up, putting them together, but actually creating a good marriage out of it and a good relationship. So why is there this comparison with the splitting of the sea? So imagine what happens. They get to the sea, they've got the Egyptians behind them, the sea is in front of them, and we all know they're, petrified, running for their lives. And what do they have to do? One person has to put their toe in the water and go in a bit further and a bit further. And it's a big leap of faith. They've got no idea at that point that the sea's going to split. And yet they get, the first man was Nachshon ben Aminadav, and he gets in there up to his neck, and suddenly, lo and behold, the sea splits. Amazing, a miracle. The laws of gravity are defied, and they all cross the sea. And then what happens? They get to the other side, and suddenly these two walls of water that have been standing up, they go back down, and the sea is calm again. And at that point, that is when they sing Shira. Now, obviously, it's a very big miracle that the sea did that. Why they sing a Shira when the sea does that? But if you think about it, if you tear something in half, if you've got a piece of paper and you're tearing it, and then you split it in half, you've got two pieces of paper, and then suddenly you realize actually that was a really important document and I needed that. You try to stick them out together, and actually that bit is very difficult to do. So Hashem splits the sea in half, and they're both standing up. And then actually when it goes back down, you can't even see that there's two halves. And suddenly he's created this seamless image of an unbroken, calm sea, where just moments ago it had been completely split into half, and you can't even see that there were two halves. And you can see, obviously, that's a very good analogy for a marriage. I mean, how can you put two individuals together who for 20, 25, 30, 40 years have lived their own individual single lives and then, mesh them together into this one entity where it has to be seamless. They create one unit and one complete identity where they're completely wrapped up in each other. And that is really the perfect marriage, where you work completely as a team, as if you're one unit. And this is actually what's happening to Bnei Israel at this point as well. We are becoming Hashem's nation. He is ours and we are his. And at that point, we break into song and we say, Zeh Keli v'Amvehu. You are our God, and he takes us on as his people. And from that moment onwards, we're completely wrapped up in each other and completely bound together. This, nation of human beings, of slaves, and this infinite being who is in no way resemblant of us at all, and yet we have to form this cohesive unit suddenly where we're completely a part of one another. And this is a moment when we sing, because what is song? It's an expression of our deepest emotion. It's something that words alone cannot express. It might be anger, or it might be love, or it might be pain, but there's always some very deep emotion that goes into a song. You hear of people making small talk with people that they don't know. You don't hear of people making small song or just serenading random strangers. There's always a very deep relationship or a deep meaningful moment being expressed. So that's why we sing. And Shlomo HaMelech takes this idea even further. So we sang at that point because that was kind of the beginning of our relationship, of our marriage. And Shlomo, 480 years later, it's much further on in our marriage, in our relationship to Hashem. We've been through all sorts of ups and downs. We've been sinning in the sin of the Egel, and there was the sin of the Meraglim, and we've been traveling around for 40 years in the desert, and then we had to conquer Eretz Israel, and there were all sorts of wars, and it was a very, very difficult time. It was a bit of a rocky road and a difficult marriage, but we made it through. And then 480 years later, when Shlomo HaMelech reigns, that was the period, that was like the golden era of complete calm and tranquility, when, the whole world came to see what an amazing country we are, what an amazing people we are. They all came to see this physical home that Shlomo HaMelech built for this relationship, for this marriage. This was our marital home, the Beis HaMikdash that he built for us, the first temple. And it was incredible, and it was famous, and people traveled all over the world to come and see it. And obviously at that moment, he felt the need to sing, because again, it was a very deep, special moment. And at that moment, he composed Shir Hashirim, the Song of Songs, which is also read this Shabbos. And in it, he carries on this analogy where he describes our relationship with Hashem as the love between a man and a woman. And it's actually, the way he describes it, it's pretty steamy stuff, really. I mean, you've got to read it, you might blush. But if you follow Art Scroll's translation, it's not as bad. But it's an amazing analogy, and that's obviously how he was feeling, this like deep, deep love between Hashem and Bnei Israel at this moment where 480 years later, through a very, tumultuous relationship, we've got to this moment of, again, clarity, like we had at the sea, where it says Vayaminu b'Hashem over Moshe Avdo. Again, we've got this period of calm where the Jewish people are just completely in love with Hashem. He's in love with us. We've got this home together, and it's an amazing time for all of us. And even that, the Song of Songs, which is supposed to be the greatest of all of the shiras that we have, that is, we only so far have 9 of them, but the 10th one, that's the one that's going to trump them all, because we're told that there's going to be a 10th shira that we're going to sing when Moshiach comes. And you can imagine that's going to be, the final, the end of our, it's the end of days, Shiras Hayam, where we can finally look back at all of these years and all of the generations and all of the ups and downs that we've had over the years, with our relationship with Hashem, with all the things that the Jewish people have been through. And yet we've finally made it through, and we can look back at all those times, as if we're in our old age, with fondness, and laugh at all the hard times, and realize that, all those hard times are really what got us to this point, and that it enhanced our relationship along the way and made it stronger. Because often in your moments of deepest pain or anguish, those are the moments that really cement your relationship. And I look forward to singing with all of you very soon. Have a very good Shabbos and a very good Yom Tov.